Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Tips to Unleash Your Amazing. Today, we are going to talk about unleashing your amazing business success with business attorney, Randy Carpena. Did I do it right? Yay! Welcome, Randy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're going to share some tips with our viewers today. Randy, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
So I am a 20 plus year, you could say lifetime corporate attorney who about a year ago made the plunge and became an entrepreneur, just like Tammy and just like other people on this call. So I'm learning, I'm great at being an attorney, and I'm learning all the ins and outs of being a solopreneur now, and at the same time focusing on helping small businesses and entrepreneurs. So it's like we're all learning together. But I found that when business owners are trying to get their business going, they're worrying about social media, they're worrying about client intake, they're probably worrying about finances. Legal stuff just sort of gets put on the side. That's for those bigger companies. And since launching the firm, I've really found that I can take all this great experience and expertise that I've previously given to corporate America and really help business owners protect themselves.
Yeah, and you specialize in intellectual property, and I think that is so interesting because protecting the things that you create and you spend your time and energy on, and making sure that that you are that is protected. I guess that's the most I can get, not flowing with it, but I think that that's really cool, and it's not something that probably a lot of people think about. I can remember several years ago, I worked for a company, and I created a business plan that they really loved, and then they shared it with a whole bunch of people without my permission, and that was super frustrating to me.
Yeah, that's a very common feeling. So here's the thing with intellectual property, and we'll talk more with some tips in a minute. But I always say I have two kinds of clients. I have a client who comes to me super stressed, super upset, somebody copied, somebody stole, somebody used without their permission, like you just said. That you talk a lot. I know about mindset and emotions, and your stress is up here. Mm-hmm. But people that work with me ahead of time, I already know those possible legal risks. And mm-hmm. even though it seems a little bit mundane, the protection keeps you from ever getting there, and you're so glad in case something does happen. So you're comfortable. And the other thing is, you know what? It's really cool when your trademark certificate comes in the mail and you're like, oh, wow, I own my name now. And I personally, of course, did the same for my own firm. So there are, definitely doing it ahead of time takes the stress out, takes the worry out, rather than after the fact. Although I do help people after the fact who either don't have permission, or they get a cease and desist letter, get sued, whatever.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Well, you're going to share some tips with us today, and I would love to learn more about your first tip.
Sure. And then you tell me how many, because I could go on for hours. I know, geeky attorney. But let's start with the simple one, which I always like people to think about, and that is protecting your business name. So what's your business name? Unleash Your Amazing, Tammy. Sagacity Legal for me. When you come up with your business name, a lot of emotion goes into it. Like there's always a story. So many people have said to me, where did Sagacity Legal come from? Well, I could go on all day of how I came up with the name, and I'm very proud of it. I'm sure you are as well with with Unleash Your Amazing. But if you don't do two things, one, make sure nobody else is using it or registered it. And two, then protect it from other people using it. It's two different things. So first of all, even just to register the name in your state, like if that's your business name, it has to be available. Many states, when you're going through just the literal boring formation process, they're checking the name. And the second is, if you use a name that somebody else has already protected, has already registered, you could go 2-3 years before they find you. And now you've created all this goodwill, spent all this time, people know you for that, and you're just stuck. So protecting your name is like number one, first thing a business should do. And there's things, in all my tips, I'm gonna give you things that you can do yourself, right? So there's hire an attorney and register the trademark. Good thing to do, of course, says the attorney. But there's other things. Claiming your URL, claiming your social media, even if you're not using it. I've claimed Sagacity Legal and my personal name for a number of social media sites that I don't even probably know how to use. But nobody else can use them, because social media, you don't have to justify it, right? You can take any Facebook name you want, and once someone has it, you're just stuck. You have to use something else. And I'll just give you a tiny short story. When I went last year to register my firm name and my personal name, Randy Carpinia, the name Randy Carpinia was taken on Twitter. And it was taken by somebody in Ukraine who totally didn't have the name Randy Carpinia. Little old me, someone stole my name on Twitter. Who would have thought, right? So, and there was a whole process, and they were able to take it down. Twitter was wonderful, but now I can't use that. My Twitter name is R. Carpinia. No one will ever use. So putting the stake in the ground all over your online presence, you can do today.
That's a great tip.
Yeah. So.
Yes. And I think that one of the things that, like a tip that I would have for you to figure out, like, where your name is just to Google it. Like, to go out to Google and Google your name on a regular basis, maybe even set up a Google alert for your name. So that way, if anything is happening out in the world in your name, that you can get notified as stuff is put out there, so you can kind of protect yourself in that way too.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And putting on an alert is fantastic. I've done that for myself and my business as well. And believe it or not, when I do for someone, when they've selected a name and they want to know if it's available, yes, I look at the trademark offices. Yes, I look at the state trademark offices, but I do Google it. That's one of the places I look, because if somebody has Tammy E. Bright Unleash Your Amazing Facebook page and it's not you, you want to know that before you go live.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
What's your second tip?
So actually my next tip kind of goes back to your story that you were talking about, and that's protecting your content. So your content, you put it, you write things, you record things like this video, and you're basically giving away your expertise. You're creating. Now, that falls under copyright protection. And copyright is really tricky, because in reality, from the moment you create something, you own it. And that's how the law reads. The problem is that you can't enforce very readily without registering your content. So when it comes to your content, you want to keep people from stealing it, right? The last thing you want is for something you've posted on social media that's gotten a lot of views and gotten you some really good goodwill copied, and some other coach somewhere takes it and posts it as their own, right? That feels bad when they took your work product and shared it, it feels bad and it's not fair, right? And it's legally not right. So there's some things, again, that you can do with an attorney, but there's also things you can do on your own. And the first is putting a copyright notice on everything, whether it's that PDF ebook that you're giving away, whether it's your website, your videos that you create. When you put a copyright notice, it's basically a no trespassing sign. It's telling people, this is mine, stay away. And for example, on your website, you have in your terms and conditions, you can't use this without my permission. Here's how you contact me if you would like permission. Mm-hmm. Right? So there are things people can do to protect themselves right away. Now, for the really important content, you do want to register. And copyright registration is really inexpensive. An application is less than $100, depending what it is. And even like for an attorney like me, my fees, it's one of my lowest cost fees. So what does that do? When you register the copyright, you provide yourself with further legal protection in the case somebody does steal it or copy it, or you want to take legal action. And what does that mean? If you don't register it, you can still sue somebody. Hey, that was mine. But you're responsible for all of your attorney's fees, and you have to prove what profit you lost because that person used it. It's called actual damages. So you have to prove that this client would have come to you for your coaching if they had known that that was yours and not gone to somebody else who stole it from you. Very, very difficult. But if you register that same content, you do this simple extra step of registering it. I've already put the no trespassing notices on. Now, if you win, you get attorney's fees and you get what's called statutory damages, a certain amount by law for each instance. Much easier, right?
Much easier.
Yeah.
Especially like if you have your own like framework, like my referral activation system would be probably something that getting that actually officially copyrighted would be smart.
Yeah, and what's really cool about copyright registration, so unlike trademarks and patents, think about when you're submitting what they call a specimen, you're submitting the document, for example, right? Your framework, your referral framework to the Copyright Office. It's not publicly available. The record is there and the title is there, but nobody can actually take it off. And the good reason, without your permission, there's actually a permission for it. Well, think about it, right? You've just registered it so someone doesn't get it for free. The office can't publish it because people could get it for free, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are afraid of registration because they feel like they're making it public, but they're actually not, because you can't get a hold of it. I have clients who've given me their copyright registration. I can't get the specimen without, even though they're my client, without getting a permission from them. Like if they go, oh, I don't remember which version. Well, I can't get it.
Interesting. That's really good though. It's very good that that would make a lot of sense. Like you can't, if you don't want somebody to get something and you register it and it be public, that would be.
Yeah, think about it. You're a novelist. You wrote your book. You're selling it for $25 each. And then someone can go on the Copyright Office and just get it. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. It's good to know. Yeah. What about your next tip?
Let's talk a little bit. Let's go off of IP just for a minute. Okay. And let's talk about protecting your business. And I want to talk about relationships. I think it's very important. So I always say at the beginning of any business relationship, you're in a honeymoon phase. Right? Everything's great. Oh, Tammy, I want to work with you so bad. You're going to help me with my referrals. Oh, Randy, I want to work with you because you're going to help me to protect all of my business ownership. So everything's great. And a lot of people that I meet don't have client contracts, don't have contractor agreements, don't have non-disclosure agreements, and they're sharing their IP. And that may be fine until, and it's the until that, again, I have two sets of clients, but the partner didn't work out, or maybe the partner worked out, but they just got a divorce and now there's an issue of who owns what between this person that's no the ex-spouse, right? Or a client agrees to pay you and they don't. Or a client demands a refund. And that's all about documenting the relationship in an agreement.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, oh, that's just takes out of the comfort zone of the relationship. I'm a coach. I need people to like me. But you know what? For many of my clients now, right on their invoice, I give them terms and conditions. It's a contract, right? And the person knows that when they sign, when they pay that invoice, this is the terms and conditions. Ideally, you have a contract. You should never hire anybody, even a contractor, an independent contractor, without a contract. Everyone that does work for me knows exactly what's expected, and I know exactly what's expected of them. So super important to have agreements.
I completely agree. I definitely have those agreements for the people that I'm working with.
Good for you. And I've actually, I don't know why, different things come into your world. A number of people have come to me lately who are in partnership. So they're not solopreneurs. They're small business owners and they have partners and they've never done an operating agreement. So they say, well, what if, as soon as there's more than one person, there could be an issue. How do we make these decisions? Well, you need an agreement.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So my husband, David, who had passed. He actually had many different businesses with partners that did not go well, that he never had agreements with. So I learned, actually, when we were dating, it wasn't after we were married, because then when he would do stuff, I would be like, no, I need to get that in writing, But because he would do things and would believe in people, when it comes to money, you need everything to be written out and know everybody's expectations for sure.
Exactly.
On, what's happening in this relationship. What do I expect of you? And what do you expect of me? And, how are we going to resolve any conflicts? Because there's going to be conflict. It's life.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing that. And I'll share my own personal story that I usually don't, but I will with you. My David, and for those who don't get confused, Tammy and I are both widows and our husbands were both named David. Sagacity Legal was actually formed 4 years ago. It was my David's law firm. But when we formed, the operating agreement was that I had 51% ownership and he had 49%. So it was a women-owned business. Not that we used it, but, and we had, as lawyers, we had, what happens if somebody passes away, all the normal things that an operating agreement would have. Well, unbeknownst to me, that document was what got me through the day he passed away, or the day after, when all of a sudden I was a law firm owner, and going to the bank and being able to deal with clients, having that ownership and being able to prove that ownership made a big difference. So yeah, if you're whether you have your own business, think about, should your spouse be a partner? If you're a solopreneur, what happens to the business if you're no longer here? And if you're in a partnership, does the other partner automatically receive your share, or does it go to their spouse or their estate? All those things become really important.
And it's a lot of stuff to think about. So making sure that you're protecting yourself up front is really important, because if something happens to you, you don't want your family to have to go through the stress of figuring out how to fix it hindsight. with everything in life, like if the more proactive that we can be with protecting ourselves and making sure that our families are protected in the future is really, really important.
Great words. True, true, true.
So what about your next tip?
Yeah, I don't know how much time you have, but let's talk next. We talked about protecting your content. So let's talk next about using other people's content. And this is a huge thing. I'm working with a client right now on what's the best place to get images, right, for your work. So there's so much free stuff on the internet, right? And it's so easy technically to copy and use, download, copy and use images, music, sound recordings, videos. And here's the issue. If you don't have permission and you don't actively, knowledgeably know you have permission, you're opening yourself up to lawsuits, to cease and desist. Again, my one type of client who comes to me because they've gotten a cease and desist letter from a big company. And they say, but I didn't know. You should know. Anytime you're creating your own content, whether it's your website, a social media post, marketing materials you're sending to your clients, whatever it is, you want to, best case, make your own. So Tammy, I know a lot of times you post photos of yourself and your family. Ideal. They're yours, right? If you're using someone else's, make sure you understand the license that you're getting. So if you go to, some of these free image websites, sorry, but there's terms and conditions. Read them.
Yeah, like some of them
you use
them. It's as simple as you need to make sure you share it, like that you got it from that website. But yeah, I think that's definitely
everyone's different, and I think maybe because we've gone so digital with COVID, I'm seeing this year a lot of people getting caught. And when I don't mean getting caught that they did it sneakily, but that they just didn't know. So, get a license for images if you can, when you can. I have clients who use materials from other sites, and they had to go through a process, which I help them to get it's almost like a contract, a written agreement of how they can use these materials with someone else. So as an example, Tammy, if you were going to allow another coach to use your referral system, they would need a proper permission of how and when they can use that. Totally important, and people totally forget about that.
Yeah. Very good.
And one more thing on content I just wanted to mention. When you take a image from a website, or like say from, I don't know, Unsplash or Adobe or Getty or whoever, you are getting a license and you may read the terms and know exactly what the use is for. You are not guaranteed, based on their terms, that any human beings in those pictures, any peoples in that picture, have given a release. So I really caution, I'm myself very careful. If I use a picture that is not my own and there's a person in it, I always use from the back. I never use the picture of a person I don't know personally, because that person could say, I never gave the person you got it from permission to use my image.
Wow, there's so much to know.
I love my job. I know. I told you, geeky attorney.
That's one of my favorite qualities about you, is that you're like so super smart and super kind, and I really appreciate you sharing with us today. Is there anything else that you would like to add? I know that you have a ebook that I will put into the comments for people so they can go and grab her ebook on protecting yourself. Anything else, Randy?
Yeah, so like you said, I really love to share. And so I have been writing I love to write also. So on my website, my blog, I've probably got about 50 articles there now on all the things we talked about and lots more, and it's searchable. So if you're wanting to know more about agreements or trademarks or your website, we didn't talk about website protection. A good place to start is just to, I try to write the blogs very easy to read. They're not legalese. So that's a good place to go. And yeah, I would love to connect with anyone in your group that's watching this that I'm not already connected on Facebook and LinkedIn. I love to learn from other entrepreneurs as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. Make sure that anybody that's watching this signs up for my free secrets to referral marketing class that I have that will be tomorrow. And I will talk to everybody soon. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Tammy.